Children, I hope you have gone through my previous videos and done all the work that was assigned to you. Let us now proceed further. Today we are going to start a new chapter, chemical bonding and molecular structure. A chemical bond is a force of attraction which holds the atoms or ions together in a molecule. Formation of chemical bond takes place due to tendency of the constituent atoms to acquire noble gas configuration and the tendency to acquire minimum energy by the molecule. Now this concept that the formation of a bond takes place due to tendency of constituent atoms to acquire noble gas configuration, it is called as Coriolis approach. Okay, now let us study about the electronic theory of valency. That is Coriolis approach. It is based on the electronic concept of atom, and it says that the combination of two or more atoms involving redistribution of electrons in their outer shells. Now this redistribution can either be by transferring electrons from one to the other or sharing of electrons. Takes place in such a way that all the combining atoms acquire stable noble gas configuration and minimum energy. So this is the Coriolis approach. Now next is Lewis symbol or electron dot symbol. G.N. Lewis, he gave simple notation to represent the valence electrons, and they are called as Lewis symbols. They do not consider the inner shell electrons, they only tell you about the outermost or the valence shell electrons. For example, in boron, in the outermost shell there are 3 electrons. Oxygen, in the outermost shell there are 6 electrons. In nitrogen, in the outermost shell there are 5 electrons, etc. If the number of electrons are equal to 4 or less than 4, then common valency of element is equal to the number of dots in the Lewis symbol. Like in case of boron, it is less than 4, 3. So the common valency will also be plus 3. Okay. And if the number of dots are greater than 4, then the common valency is equal to 8 minus the number of dots. Like in case of oxygen, number of electrons is 6 in the outermost shell. So valency will be 8 minus 6, that is 2. Okay. So this is how in case of nitrogen, number of electrons is 5. Valency will be 8 minus 5, that is 3. So this is how the valency is determined according to Lewis symbol or electron dot symbol. Now next is electrovalent or ionic bond. Chemical bond formed between two or more atoms by transferring electrons from one atom to the other atom is called as electrovalent or ionic bond. And the compounds which are formed by such bond, they are called as ionic or electrovalent compounds. The number of electrons which an atom loses or gains while forming an ionic bond is called as its electrovalency. Let us see a few examples of ionic bond, like in case of sodium chloride. In terms of Lewis structure, sodium has 1 electron in the outermost shell. Its electronic configuration is 281. So you write it like this: Na and 1 unpaired electron. Chlorine electronic configuration is 287. So chlorine you write and then you put 7 dots around it. So it forms NaCl. So Na becomes Na plus. It loses this extra electron. It gets the configuration 2 and 8, which is a complete octet. And Cl becomes Cl minus. That means it gains 1 electron and its octet also becomes complete 288. So this forms NaCl. Similarly in LiO2. Now lithium has the electronic configuration 2 1. and oxygen has electronic configuration 2 6. It has 6 electrons in the outermost shell. So it will share its it will give the electrons it will get the electrons from 2 lithium. All right, one lithium atom here gives its electron of oxygen becomes 7. Octet is still not complete, so the other lithium atom also gives its electron. Now lithium Li plus has 2, oxygen has 8, and here also Li plus has just 2. So all have their complete octet. That is the nearest noble gas structure everyone has achieved. So this is Li2O. Let us see a few more examples. See, MgO, magnesium. Magnesium has 2 electrons in the outermost shell, and oxygen has 6 electrons in the outermost shell. So magnesium loses its 2 electrons and oxygen gains those 2 electrons to form Mg2 plus and O2 minus. So the compound that is formed is MgO. Okay. Similarly, in case of calcium, calcium also has 2 electrons in its outermost shell, oxygen 6 electrons in the outermost shell. So calcium becomes Ca2 plus, its octet becomes complete, and oxygen becomes 2 minus, gains 2 electrons, and they form CaO, calcium oxide. Now you saw earlier NaCl, where Na loses 1 electron and chlorine gets 1 electron, so they formed NaCl. Now when Na reacts with sulfur, Na has 1 electron in its outermost shell, sulfur has 6 electrons in its outermost shell. So to complete its octet it needs 2 electrons. So it will take 1 electron from one sodium atom and other electron from the other sodium atom. So you will have 2 Na plus and S2 minus. So you will get a compound Na2S. Okay. Now next let us study about conditions for formation of electrovalent or ionic bonds. First condition is ionization enthalpy. Low ionization enthalpy of atom which forms the cation on losing electrons favors the formation of ionic bond. The element should be metal, that is electropositive in nature. Second property is electron affinity or electron gain enthalpy. So electron affinity of atom which is making the anion should be high. The element should be non-metal or electronegative in nature. Now remember that the formation of ionic compounds is favored by large size of metal atom or ion, since an increase in size is associated with decrease in ionization energy. Small size and low charge on anion will favor ionic compounds because these factors increase the electron gain enthalpy. So cation should have a large size and anion should have a low size, small size, sorry. Okay. Now next is lattice energy. Lattice energy is equal to the energy released when gaseous cations and anions combine to form 1 mole of ionic compound. So the high lattice enthalpy or energy means it will favor the formation of ionic compound. Value of lattice energy depends on 2 factors. First is charge on ions. Now if the charge is larger magnitude of charge, then greater will be the force of attraction and large is the amount of lattice energy released. And second factor is size of ions. Smaller the size of ions, higher is the value of lattice energy. So large magnitude of charge, higher lattice energy. Smaller size of ion, large lattice energy. So in short, you can say that an ionic compound is formed easily when lattice energy plus electron affinity is greater than ionization energy. Okay. Now Next is electronegative difference. Greater the electronegativity difference between two atoms, higher will be the possibility of ionic bond formation. Now, normally ionic bond is formed when the electronegativity difference is greater than 1.9 between the cation and the anion. No bond is 100% ionic. It has some percentage of covalent character. Highly electropositive elements of group 1 and 2, they combine with highly electronegative elements of group 16 and 17 to form electrovalent or ionic compounds. So halides, oxides, sulfides, nitrides, nitrates, hydrides of alkali and alkaline earth metals, they are generally ionic in nature. Now next is variable electrovalency. Now heavier p block elements, heavier means which have high atomic number, that is the transition and inner transition elements, they show more than one electrovalency in their ionic compound. So this is called as variable electrovalency. Now there are two reasons for this variable electrovalency. First is instability of the core. Now in case of atoms of transition elements, ions formed after loss of valence electrons do not have a stable core, as the configuration of outermost shell is not Ns2np6 but it is Ns2np6 D1 to 10. Okay, like for example, you take here iron. Iron has atomic number 26. So its electronic configuration is 2, 8, 8 plus 6 and 2. So Ns2, this is filled 2, and then D, in the d orbital it has 6 electrons. Electronic, this can be written as 3s2. This is, it has outermost shell is the third shell, so it is written as, iron is written as 3s2, 3p6, 3d6 and 4s2. Alright. Now in the case of iron, shows two valencies, plus 2 and plus 3. When it is showing Fe2 plus valency, it loses 2 electrons, atomic number becomes 24. So its configuration becomes 2, 8, 8, 6, that is 3s2, 3p6 and 3d6. This is not a stable configuration. In case of Fe3 plus, atomic number becomes 23 and electronic configuration becomes 2, 8, 8, 5. D orbital has got 10 electrons, and now in Fe3 plus there are 5 electrons present in d orbital. So this is half filled configuration and this is more stable. So 3s2, 3p6 and 3d5. So this is a stable configuration. Alright, thus iron is basically found both as plus 2 and plus 3, but among them also plus 3 is more stable than plus 2. Okay, now in this you have to remember that in copper, Cu2 plus is more stable than Cu plus in aqueous solution due to high hydration energy. Second reason for variable electrovalency is inert pair effect. Alright, now the inert pair effect, some heavier representative elements of third, fourth and fifth group, they show lower valencies, that is only electrons present in p subshell are lost and Ns2 electrons remain intact. The reluctance of s electron to take part in bond formation is called as inert pair effect, because their octet is, they are complete. S orbital can have only 2 electrons and there are already 2 present over here, so this becomes stable and it does not take part in bond formation. So this pair of electron, it is called as inert pair because it is not taking part in bond formation. Okay, because of this they show variable valency. Like tin is in group 4. It has electronic configuration 2, 8, 18, 18. Outermost 5s2 and 5p2. Now there can be a condition in which all 4 electrons take part in the all 4 electrons of fifth orbital, they take part in bond formation. So then the valency should be +4. But in it also shows Sn2 plus, because this 5s2 in itself is stable. So these 2 electrons of s orbital, they do not take part in bond formation. Only p orbitals electrons are lost. So it gives you Sn2 plus. Same way in lead. Lead is also in 4th group. It has electronic configuration 2, 8, 18, 32, 18. Outermost shell is 6s2 and 6p2. So there can be a condition in which all 4 electrons are lost and it shows you +4, or there can be a condition in which 6s2 does not take place and only p electrons take place. So that is, only p electrons are lost, so it shows you Pb +2. So as we move down a group, the inert pair effect increases. When sufficient energy is provided, s electrons also enter into bond formation and higher valencies are shown. This tendency to show higher valency is less in lead and bismuth, and but more in case of lighter elements like tin and antimony. Inert pair effect is caused due to penetration of ns2 electrons to some extent to penultimate shell consisting 18 electrons, thereby attracted strongly towards the nucleus. Now next we come to general characteristics of ionic compounds. Now first characteristic is that ionic or electrovalent compounds, they are usually crystalline in nature. They exist in form of crystals. They have high melting and boiling point due to strong electrostatic forces existing in ionic solids. They are hard and brittle in nature. Hardness is due to strong force of attraction between oppositely charged ions, and the brittleness is due to movement of a layer of a crystal on another layer by application of external force when like ions come in front of each other. So that forces of repulsion, they cause their breaking. Electrovalent compounds, they are soluble in polar solvents and insoluble in non-polar solvents. Now due to high value of dielectric constant of water, electrostatic force of attraction between the ions decrease and these ions get separated and ultimately solvated by the molecule of solvent. Electrovalent compound dissolves in solvent if the value of solvation energy is higher than the lattice energy of electrovalent compound. Hence, NaCl, MgSO4, etc., they are soluble in water, but calcium fluoride, lead chloride, barium sulfate, etc., they are insoluble in water because their lattice energy is high and solvation or hydration enthalpy is small. Now, ionic compounds do not conduct electricity in solid state, but in molten state they conduct electricity, and even in solutions they conduct electricity. Aqueous solutions of ionic compound give ionic reactions due to presence of ions, and these reactions are very fast. Ionic bond is non-rigid and non-directional, therefore these compounds do not show stereoisomerism. These are the general characteristics of ionic compound. Next is Born-Haber cycle. Now lattice energy, which is represented by U, of an ionic compound, it is the amount of energy released when 1 mole of compound is formed by combination of gaseous cations and gaseous anions. Like when A plus will combine with B minus both in gaseous state to form 1 mole of AB, then the energy that is released, it is called as lattice energy. Now it is given a negative sign, as lattice energy is always released, and it is calculated indirectly by using Born-Haber cycle, which is based on Hess's law. Now if suppose we take the example of formation of NaCl. Now in NaCl what happens? See, this is NaCl. Now in this NaCl, it splits into Na plus, this, and Cl minus. Now this NaCl, the Cl, 2Cl minus, they combine together to form Cl2, and then Cl2 dissociates to give Cl, which gives you Cl minus. Okay, so these are the changes, minus Q, and here dissociation, minus half D, because 2 molecules of chlorine are dissociating, so half of this energy. Whereas Na is simply getting converted into Na plus, and lattice energy is over here. Now this Na sublimes to give, if when heated, it sublimes to give sodium in gaseous state. The sodium was solid and it sublimes to give sodium in gaseous state. Now see, what are the steps involved? In this case, the steps involved are, see, I have written here what are the steps involved. First step is that solid sodium changes into gaseous sodium. Here, I think we'll keep it here only so that you understand. Go back to the previous picture. See here, solid sodium changes into gaseous sodium. Now in this case, energy change is given by delta H, which is 107.3 kilojoules per mole. Second step, gaseous sodium atoms change into sodium ions. So this is changing into sodium ions, and in this case ionization potential is being used. So ionization potential, the energy which is changing gaseous sodium into ionic sodium, that is given as, that is plus 495.8 kilojoules per mole. Then next step, half mole of chlorine is getting converted, dissociating into 1 mole of gaseous chlorine atom. Okay, so here we'll take half of the dissociation energy, that is dissociation energy is 244 kilojoules per mole, so half of that we will take. In the fourth step, chlorine is getting converted into chloride ion, Cl minus, and in this case electron affinity, again it is given by minus 348.6 kilojoules per mole. And in the last step, sodium and chloride ions, they are held together by electrostatic forces, and the energy released is equal to the lattice energy. Okay, so these are the 5 steps. So let us see over here. First step, like I told you, sodium ion is changing into gaseous sodium, energy is 107.3 kilojoules per mole. Second step, sodium, gaseous sodium is converting into ionic sodium, so in this ionization potential is 495.8 kilojoules per mole. Third step, half mole of chlorine atom is getting converted or dissociating into chlorine, 1 atom of chlorine, gaseous state. So we take half of the dissociation energy, half of dissociation energy is 244 kilojoules per mole. Then next, gaseous chlorine atom is changing into chloride ion, So in this case, chlorine is changing into chloride ions, and electron affinity, which is given as minus 348.6 kilojoules per mole. And the last step, chloride ion and sodium ion, they are held together by electrostatic forces, and the energy released is lattice energy. So the total energies of the above 5 step is, you take delta H plus half of D plus ionization potential minus electron affinity plus U. So according to Hess's law, minus Q is equal to delta H plus half D plus IP minus EA plus U. So substituting the values, you get the value of lattice energy as, because Q is minus 411, so you get lattice energy as minus 787.5 kilojoules per mole. So this is how lattice energy is calculated by Born-Haber cycle using Hess's law. Now next is covalent bond. It is based on Lewis-Langmuir concept. The bond formed between two or more atoms of same or different elements by sharing of electrons in order to complete their octet or duplet is called as covalent bond. Duplet is completed in case of hydrogen, others all complete their octet. Now it may be single, double or triple depending upon number of sharing electrons. Let us take a few examples. Like in case of hydrogen, when two atoms of hydrogen, they share their electron to form H2. See here. Then next is H2O, water. Hydrogen has one electron, so two atoms of hydrogen and 6 electrons in the oxygen, so they share. So now this hydrogen has 2, this hydrogen also has 2, and this oxygen has all 8. Similarly in methane, see, carbon has 4 in its outermost shells, shown by the crosses, and hydrogen has 1, so shown by the dot. So when the sharing takes place between 4 hydrogen and 1 carbon, now this carbon also has 8 and each hydrogen has 2, so it forms methane. Okay, let me show you a few more examples. When two atoms of oxygen, they share electrons, so one atom is shown as dots, electrons of one atom, others are shown as crosses. So here they share two electrons, so each of the oxygen has 8 electrons. Alright, so this is a double bond because they are not sharing 1, they are sharing 2. Similarly in ammonia, nitrogen has 5, shown by the dots, 5 electrons. Hydrogen has 1 each, so it will share with 3 hydrogen atoms, they are shown by crosses. So now nitrogen has 8 and each hydrogen has 2, so NH3. Now let us see another example, that is ethylene or ethene. One carbon has 4, it is sharing electrons with 4 hydrogens. Alright, so each of the hydrogen has come, because it has 4, so one carbon with 2, another carbon with 2. So but still the octet is not complete, so what it is doing, it is sharing 2 electrons. Both the carbons, they are sharing 2 electrons each. So between the 2 carbons there is a double bond, and with the hydrogen there is single bond. So in this way, ethylene molecule. Okay, and in these the dots and crosses, they are electrons and they are called as Lewis structures, whereas structures in which covalent bonds have been represented by lines, they are known as Cooper structures. This structure is Lewis structure and this structure is Cooper structure. Same way here, Lewis structure and this is Cooper structure. Okay. Next we come to bond pair and lone pairs. The shared pair of electrons between combining atoms, they are called as bond pairs, and the valence electrons not involved in sharing, they are called as lone pair. Like in between two nitrogen, these 3 electrons are being shared, so they form a triple bond. Okay, so they are bond pairs, but these 2 electrons, they are not being shared, they are not taking part in the bond formation, so they are called as lone pairs. Next we come to covalency and variable covalency. Just like electrovalency, there is covalency. Covalency is the number of electrons contributed by an atom of element for sharing with other atom in order to achieve noble gas configuration. Now the usual covalency of an element except for hydrogen is equal to 8 minus number of group to which the element belongs. Hydrogen always has a covalency 1. Elements having vacant d orbital in their valence shell like phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, bromine, iodine show variable covalency by unpairing the paired and shifting the electrons to the vacant d orbitals. Let us first see the variable covalency of phosphorus. Now phosphorus shows covalency 3 and 5. See, in the ground state, phosphorus has atomic number 15. So it shows 3s2, 3p3, and 3d is vacant. In case of excited state, what happens when some energy is provided? This 2 electrons which were present in the s orbital, from them 1 electron jumps to 3d. So what happens now? It has 3s1, 3p3 and 3d1. So it has now 5 unpaired electrons and it shows covalency of 5. Similarly, in case of sulfur, sulfur shows covalency of 2, 4 and 6. If you see the ground state of sulfur, atomic number is 16. It is 3s2, 3p4 and 3d orbital is there, but it is empty. Now in the first excited state, the electron from p orbital, here px orbital, where there were 2 electrons, one of the electron jumps to 3d orbital. So now it is 3s2, 3p3, 3d1. If you further provide energy to it, in the second excited state, the electron which was present in s or 3s orbital will also jump and go to 3d orbital. So now you have 3s1, 3p3 and 3d2. So now the number of unpaired electrons become 6. So copper shows 2, 4 and 6 covalency. Is it clear? So basically the variable valency is due to presence of vacant d orbitals. Okay. Now next is, covalency of chlorine. Chlorine shows 1, 3, 5 and 7 covalency because atomic number of chlorine is 17. Ground state, chlorine exists as 3s2, 3p5. 3d orbital is vacant. First excited state, when a little energy is provided, one of the electron from p orbital moves to 3d. So it becomes 3s2, 3p4, 3d1. Second excited state, it becomes 3s2, 3p3, 3d2. One more electron goes to d. Third excited state, the electron in the s orbital also jumps to d orbital. So it becomes 3s1, 3p3 and 3d3. So 4 types of covalencies are shown. Ground state, it shows +1. No, it shows -1. First excited state, it shows a covalency of 3. Then second excited state, there are 5 unpaired electrons, so 5. And in the third excited state, there are 7 unpaired electrons, so 7. Now the formal charge. Formal charge is given by a formula: total number of valence electrons on free atom minus total number of electrons as lone pair minus half total number of shared electrons. That is, Fc is equal to V minus L minus S upon 2. Now let us take an example of how to calculate the formal charge. Suppose you take example of calculation of formal charge on the 3 oxygen atoms in ozone. Now you see, ozone has 3 oxygen atoms, but 2 oxygen are linked by a double bond and 2 are linked by a single bond. Now in this case, oxygen atom, we have numbered them 1, 2 and 3. If you look at oxygen atom 1, okay, so what is the total number of valence electrons on free atom? 6 minus total number of electrons which are lone pair, which are not taking part in bond formation. See over here, there are 2 dots, so minus 2. Then total number of shared electrons. How many electrons have been shared? 6. So that has to be divided by 2. So it will become 6 upon 2. So first oxygen has got charge. Oxygen atom has got a formal charge 1. Okay, you must be wondering why I have taken 6 by 2, because see, double bond, that means 4 electrons, and single bond means 2 shared electrons. So 4 plus 2, 6, and 6 divided by 2. So 6 minus 2 minus 3, that becomes 1. Look at the second atom. Second oxygen atom, formal charge, the total number of free valence electrons remains the same, 6. Total number of lone pair. Now there are 4 electrons here which are not taken part in bond formation, so it becomes minus 4. And if you count the number of shared electrons, it is linked only through a double bond, so 4. So 4 by 2. So the total comes to 0. So formal charge on second oxygen is 0. Third oxygen atom, it is linked by a single bond. Total number of valence electrons is 6. Lone pair, which are not taking part in bond formation, they are 6. And electrons which are taking part in bond formation, they are 2. So 2 upon 2, 1. So the total becomes minus 1. Alright. So this becomes a neutral atom, because one oxygen has plus 1 charge, other oxygen has minus 1 charge, and the third oxygen has 0 charge. So ozone is a neutral atom. Now we come to characteristics of covalent compound. Covalent compounds exist as discrete molecules. They exist in solid, liquid or gaseous state. They have low melting and boiling point, except for diamond, silica, carbon, random, etc. Now these compounds, they do not conduct electricity in solid, molten or in solution, because they do not have free ions. Exceptions are there. Again, graphite, it can conduct electricity. Hydrochloric HCl, NH3, acetic acid, in their aqueous solution they can conduct electricity because they liberate ions. Covalent compounds are generally soluble in non-polar solvents like CCl4, CHCl3, C6H6, etc. But soluble in polar solvents like water. Okay, glucose, sugar, urea, methanol, acetone are water soluble because they form hydrogen bonds with water molecule. Covalent bond is rigid, has a directional character, they have definite molecular geometry, they may show stereoisomerism. Covalent compounds show molecular reactions, and these reactions, unlike ionic reactions, are slow reactions. Now we come to the limitations of octet rule. Now First limitation is formation of electron deficient compounds. Like in some molecules like BF3, AlCl3, the central atom boron and aluminium, they have only 6 electrons. So this is this is something different from the octet rule. They do not have 8 electrons. Now, formation of hypervalent compounds. In PCl5, SF6, IF7, central atom has more than 8. That is, in PCl5, central atom has got 10 electrons. SF6, 12 electrons. Sulfur has 12 electrons. In IF7, iodine has 14 electrons. So the central atom can expand their octet due to presence of vacant d orbitals in them. So again, this is contrary to the octet rule. Then third is formation of xenon compounds like XeF2, XeOF2, XeF4, etc. cannot be explained by octet rule, because octet rule says that noble gases are inert. They do not react because they have 8 electrons in their outermost shell, but xenon is forming compounds. Next is odd electron molecule or ions. NO, NO2 and ClO2 are odd electron molecules. Total number of valence electrons in NO is 11, NO2 is 17 and ClO2 is 19. So they contain at least one unpaired electron. Again, this cannot be explained by octet rule. Then octet rule does not account for the shape of the molecules. So these are all the limitations of the octet rule. Now in the next video we will continue further. For now, you revise this much that has been taught.